I'm Dan Pascone, CEO of Tailored Wealth and host of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast, real conversations to help high earners make sharper decisions so their money works as hard as they do. This is episode number 47. And today I'm joined by Michelle Terpstra, who is the founder and, as she calls it, the chief revenue rascal at her firm, Revenue Rascals. And we talk about revenue leadership without burnout, why high performers need autonomy and pleasure, how to scale without the growth at all costs trap, and why you can't ignore stewarding your money. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed on your favorite platform. And if you find the show valuable, I'd really appreciate you leaving a quick review. Thanks so much and enjoy.
Brought to you by Tailored Wealth, helping business leaders live their version of a rich life.
Welcome to another edition of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast, where we cut through the financial noise and help business leaders to make smart, confident money decisions. All right, Michelle, thanks for joining Making Sense of Your Money. Excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be here, Dan.
Yeah. This is going to be a fun conversation. We have a lot in common, a lot to discuss. So I'm excited to unpack everything revenue leadership, sales and revenue generation. I want to hear a little bit about your podcast. We connected on LinkedIn, but I followed your podcast a little bit and you've got some really interesting stuff that you do there. And then I know that you most recently have come out with some content around high performance and how high performers get to where they are. So if you don't mind, let's just start off by giving a brief background to our audience. Tell us a little bit about what you do today and what's led you through your journey.
Yeah. So you know how they say some people are born to sell, Dan?
Absolutely hear that.
So I don't know if it's true, but I will tell you that I have loved everything I have ever sold in my life. So the first thing I ever sold were spring break trips to my friends in college. And that was pretty fun.
I remember the guy that sold me my first spring break trip, by the way. We still talk about him.
Just saying. I mean, you become a legend in college when you get everybody drunk and on a bus and going to Mexico. Anyway, that's how it all started for me. But in college, I actually studied communication, but not to be a broadcaster. Ironically, though, I now host a podcast and kind of have a media company. But anyway, I studied organizational communication, negotiation, persuasion, influence at one of the most prestigious schools that you can find that does it, which is UC Santa Barbara. And so absolutely loved learning, taking my natural skills that I was in, I was really good with communicating with people to learn how to actually truly sell. So when I graduated college, I did what everybody told me to do, which is go get a high paying sales job. And I was like, cool, that's easy. So nailed that interview. Got a great high paying sales job and ended up working in sales for 3 different Fortune 500s and then a small consulting firm.
Yep.
And it was when I was with the consulting firm that I realized, wow, owning a consulting firm is really cool. I really like this. You get to design your own process, your own system. You get to work with new people all the time. You're the authority on whatever it is that you're consulting on. And so one day I had a meeting with the head of marketing at the company that I was with at that time. And I suggested that sales enablement department to be created because at the time there was a lot of older reps that were phasing out and new ones like myself were coming in. And it was no longer like, oh, I'm going to go to the golf course and find a sale. You actually know how to sell and you need sales enablement for that. And he just kind of looked at me like, I see no value in sales enablement and I don't really understand. You should just go golfing. And I looked at him and I was like, wow, I don't belong here at all. And I don't want to be here anymore. So I went home and I told my husband that I'm going to start a consulting company and a training company. And I'm going to quit my multi-6-figure safe sales job. And he was like, that's interesting, as you can imagine. And he's like, how are you going to find clients? And I was like, well, me as a sales expert, if I can't find clients, and this is a major problem. Right. So give me a shot, give me a month. If I can't get a client within a month, I'll go back and get another sales job. Lo and behold, had my first client. And I decided actually originally to go down the group coaching program side. So I taught founders how to sell because a lot of founders do not know how to sell.
Right.
And so I made my first $500,000 as a consultant doing this online coaching program during COVID, and it was a huge success. And over time, I got pulled into larger companies that, now are hiring their sales team or they needed their sales team to perform. So I evolved into fractional leadership, which started as a fractional head of sales and a fractional CSO and now fractional CRO. And all of those elevation points, that wasn't me saying I'm great at something. It was one of my clients saying, "Hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. This is actually the title, and now you can fulfill it because you have all the skills." So I organically grew within my consulting business into where I am now. And what I noticed over time is that, wow, we are still doing things the way that we are always doing things, just like when I felt when I had that conversation with the head of marketing, right? So I created Revenue Rascals and the brand, the podcast, the media, the training behind it to basically disrupt and say, we don't need to do things the way we've always done them. I'm going to break up the patriarch and we are going to change the way that we do things and we can still be happy and successful. That leads me into my passion around high performance. I have a workbook on Amazon, High Performance Sales Habits. But what I've realized is that there is this cycle where high performers, not your average person, higher performers, that's who I'm speaking to, they
Yep.
hustle, then they rest, then they hustle. But what that does is eventually it breaks down and it causes severe burnout.
Right.
And so I have applied my theory to myself, to my own life to prevent burnout. And it works so well. So I crack the code, and that's what I'm going to start sharing a lot about now.
All right. I have so many questions. We're gonna start on the sales and revenue side, and then we're gonna come back to the high performance stuff because now you got
Awesome.
me intrigued, and I'm sure that our audience is as well. All right. So what does it mean to break up the patriarch or listen, most of our audience knows I'm a former chief revenue officer and I, like
Mhm.
you, took a lot of the habits that I learned and a lot of the things that were successful in a corporate role and brought it into my own business. What does that
Yes.
look like for the clients that you coach and that you teach? Tell us a little bit about what are you doing
Mhm.
differently? And I mean, I'll start off by saying, as much as I love golf, I love that you sort of disrupted like the old boys club of selling. And, for those of us that spend enough time around specifically tech revenue leaders, and I have a lot of those as
Mhm.
clients, know that what you were preaching 5, 10 years ago is absolutely the way that most businesses are operating today. But talk a little bit about what have you disrupted and how are you doing things differently than maybe the old books wrote them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. So, by disrupting these old norms, I'm in favor of things that you would think everyone's in favor of, but never prioritizes, which is sustainable growth, a
Sure.
humane approach to building teams, and inclusive methods that allow you to scale without as much sacrifice as perhaps everybody is used to. So what that means is I challenge profits at all cost, money
Okay.
at all cost, growth at all costs. The all costs part, that doesn't work for me. And no one should hire me if that's what they want. So, what that means is that traditional businesses, they focus on short term gains, overworking, ignoring employee well being. And what I have seen is that if you want to be this, doesn't matter how big you want to be, but if you want to get there, you have to change your view on that to purpose, sustainability, and humanity. And to be clear, this does not mean soft and weenie leadership,
Right.
okay? Because if anybody knows me and how direct I am absolutely not that person. I am radical candor to a T.
Right.
But that does not mean that you have to do things that it's been done before. And when you're redefining growth and the patriarch, that's like the patriarchy that's behind that is in the business often glorifies actually burnout. There was a client that I had when we had the stand up every Monday morning. The
Yep.
CEO chose to praise the people who worked all weekend or who didn't see their family or
Right.
they've been on a road for 2 weeks. They haven't come up for air. So that's actually not something we should be glorifying at all. And so when I look at the disruption that I'm looking to make is it's like I need to prove that companies can succeed without sacrificing this well-being. And that's the mission that I'm on. And if you've ever heard of Tower paddle boards,
Yeah.
it's a paddleboard company,
Yeah.
huge. He is an amazing example, and I want that guy on my podcast so bad. The founder, CEO, they work a modified schedule. And when he changed it from a burnout culture into this modified schedule, his profits actually went up. And everyone thought that he was crazy. And he has super high retention. He's not constantly in the hire, fire,
Right.
train cycle and all of this. And it's also another part of it is shifting from power over somebody to power with. And it changes the dynamic from like this rigid hierarchy where a few dominant people like just take over everything to collaborative, equitable, power within structure. And you can see an amazing set of new results when you actually do it this way. And it's huge. And then also, like when it comes, like the irony here is that because I'm a woman, because I'm using these words, a lot of people are like, oh, you must just work with women. And I was like, no, about 80% of my clients are men.
And
And
then
this is a really important piece of the puzzle because and you know what you'll also notice is men are not going to be in the comments on my social media saying, that's me, because no man does that ever, right? So what they do is they DM me and they say, please come and help me, or it's private.
right. It's a
So
private DM, right?
it's a private thing. So this is what I believe in, and this is what I believe will actually make companies at the end of the day more successful long term.
All right. Love your message here. And it really aligns with so our company purpose is to help our clients design and live their version of a rich life. Right? So
Mhm.
oftentimes our message and what we're talking to our clients about is how do we use your financial resources to not just maximize the numbers on the statement. And I think you're kind of saying that from a corporate perspective, right? Same similar
Mhm.
concept from a corporate perspective. And we say, okay, it's not just about maximizing the numbers on the statement. It's about using those resources to get what you want out of life. So my question back to you is with that as sort of a baseline, what are some of the sacrifices that companies are making prior to working with you? And how do you
Mhm.
get them to get away from having to make those sacrifices, whether it be at the founder level, the executive level, or all the way
Mhm.
down to the general employee population?
Yeah, well, the first thing is the CEO has to step up. I have a rule that I will not work with an organization unless I directly work, communicate, and report to only the CEO. I will
Okay.
work with no one else. And the reason why is because I know the tone from the top matters more than anything. So you don't want to hire me unless you want that type of interaction with me. And so the first thing that needs to be addressed is the CEO. It needs to be like, do I really want this with the style that Michelle supports, right? Because there's going to need to be cultural changes, meeting changes. So, for example, something super simple that I don't believe in that can be fixed and adapted to my method is the meeting madness that's out there. Like your calendar should not be 40 hours of meetings a week. What the heck? Right.
Sure.
So I have this thing that I do is any single time I go into a company, I cancel every single recurring meeting on the entire calendar. And we only add back what we actually need. And we put an agenda and expectations to those meetings. So, what that does is it frees up a ton of time for people, for sellers, for marketers, for customer success to actually do the work to grow the business instead of just showcasing how busy they are with 40 hours of meetings on their calendar.
Yeah.
So, that's one example. The second example is celebrating people who have great outcomes without sacrificing their life to be there.
Yeah.
That's the next one. And that means culturally aligned. Also, the other thing that's happening, especially on the sales team side, is a great seller can go get any job they want at any time. So you actually have to work to retain them
Yeah.
and period. So they're the highest demand. It's the easy. I mean, literally, like I could go get any sales job tomorrow that I wanted. It's like
Right.
the high performing sellers are they're just high demand. So how expensive is it to hire a top performer, train them, and then just lose them because you keep moving the carrot? They don't know what success is. It's like you're changing the job role. You're making quota completely ridiculously unobtainable so they can't reach their bonuses. Like all of these things like have to be reevaluated because the cost to the company is actually really high. It's super expensive to find talent, hire talent, train talent. So my argument it is, can we just do it right when we hire them so that they stay, so that the company can preserve that energy and that money to grow instead of chasing our hiring tail?
All right. So I want to unpack that a little bit. What can companies do to
Mhm.
retain their best sellers other
Mhm.
than compensation and maybe some of the
Mhm.
general perks
Yeah,
that we're used to hearing? What can
sure.
organizations do to retain? Because you're right, retaining the top sellers is mission critical for any organization.
Mission
So
critical.
give us some thoughts on what they can do.
Sure. So the number one value of every single high performing seller is autonomy.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Stop. Okay. So if you hire a high performer, please let them be high performers and give them the autonomy that they would like. And that does not mean that they can work from the beach every day. Like, don't get me wrong, right? But autonomy means you're not micromanaging, you're giving space, you're trusting the person that you hired to do their job. Person can feel that on the other side. And the other thing is don't keep moving the carrot for the love of God,
Right.
okay? Like, just decide on how somebody's going to be compensated, regardless if it's the top comp in the industry or the lowest. Keep it steady so people can focus, not worry about making money because they know if they do the things that they need to do, they can do it. Right. So you have to, and do not judge them for pushing back or being frustrated. I mean, I'm like, literally, people will fall off so quickly when you keep moving the carrot. And it's a bit of an epidemic, quite frankly, in large corporations. It's like every October, no one knows what January's quota is going to be. And this drives me insane because we're business owners, Dan. Can you imagine if we waited till January to set our goals for January's like fiscal year? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So you have to change the way you do things so people can be high performers, so they can do what they know how to do. But if you keep moving the needle, you are screwing your team.
I'm fascinated by this because in the short time that we've chatted, I love your message, but I'm not used to it coming from a revenue person. I'm used to this coming from an HR or a culture person, right? So like, help us understand, like, you clearly have had a very successful sales career, but
Mhm.
like your message is almost like contradictory to what you're taught growing up in sales. And you and I
Fair.
both grew up in sales, right? So I
Yep.
can relate to that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And I guess that's what makes me a little bit different
Yeah, I
is
agree.
that I look at the numbers. We are disciplined to the numbers, and that is really important. Like, clearly, no one's going to keep me around if sales don't go up, if retention doesn't go
Right,
up, if the marketing does like I'm just going to get myself kicked out of the
right,
room, right?
right.
So the thing is I take all the traditional CRO stuff that
Yep.
everybody knows how to, like anyone who's a revenue leader is going to do, but I've injected it with what I just shared with you
Okay.
to create a high performance revenue operation within a business. So I could sit here all day long and talk about all the CRO-y things that I do that are traditional, but that would be quite boring for your audience because they've heard it so many times. So instead, I'm choosing to share my alternative view of how you grow and how revenue grows, how you retain talent, how your company can scale. But I want to be super, super clear. I am a tough person to report to. I expect a lot, and you better hit your numbers. If I can protect you from a corporate level of all of the things, and I can give you a consistent quota and we're reaching and these are our goals and this is what your expectations are. Like, if I can do that for you, you better perform or you're on a PIP or you're fired very quickly. So I think it's important to hear that message alongside everything that I just said.
Yeah, no, there's a really nice balancing act there. And what struck me as I'm hearing you talk about sort of combining those two, because, the traditional mindset is like, especially when you're in revenue leadership, like, you better hit a number or you're out the door, right? Like
Mhm.
that is sort of the traditional mindset. And I think you and I have chatted about this in the past, but I'm a longtime member of Pavilion, right? And I hear and see their CEO, Sam Jacobs, and I was at a dinner with him a few weeks ago and I heard him quote this again. He quotes the stat all the time of the average tenure of a revenue leader. And I think the most
Mhm.
recent was like 19 months or something like that, right?
Yep.
And just before I hopped on this call, a friend of mine, a client of mine who's a CRO, just pinged
Mhm.
me and said, I'm going to be looking for a new job again. Like literally just
Yep.
before we hopped on this podcast. So I think what you're doing is you're doing a nice job of balancing. Yeah, we need to produce results, but let's make this thing sustainable for the business and frankly, the human beings that are involved.
Yes, 100%, because this is the deal. So I'm an elder millennial, born
Okay.
in 83. Okay. So
Okay.
barely made it, right?
I'm there with you.
All right. So the millennials, this generation is fascinating because we were the first generation to say, for example, we don't need to go to an office every day to be successful.
Right. Right.
Okay. And technology enabled us to do this, right? So we drew this like nice little line in the sand of like, we want flexibility in the workplace. Maybe it's hybrid, maybe it's remote, whatever it can be. But we would still cross over our own personal boundaries and values to take the perfect job that was going to kill us anyway, because it violated all of that. But we knew we wanted to make the money. We're people pleasers. We want to be the best. We want to showcase our success. It's like literally disease of the millennial mind is like being a martyr, right? Like
Right.
that's just like our generation. And so that's cool, whatever. But let me tell you right now, the Gen Zers, because I'm responsible for hiring a lot of Gen Zers, especially like in SDR roles and like, beginning roles. I I did a podcast episode on this, and everyone should seriously go study it if you lead a team or want to lead a team, because they don't draw nice little lines in the sand. They're putting up brick walls. And the thing is that if you cannot accommodate the way that a Gen Zer wants to perform and act and work, who's going to work for you in 10 years when all the millennials go and own farms because they're so freaking burned out and they don't even want to work here anymore? Who's going to work for you? Who's going to build your business? You're not going to change an entire generation, Mr. CEO founder. So you better figure out how to scale sustainable, hit your numbers with a new set of rules.
Yeah, well said. I think that's a perfect segue into something that you touched on earlier, which is this high performance mindset. And I was intrigued by some of the work that you said you're starting to do. And I want you to give us the insights on the Amazon workbook. But tell us a little bit about this. I think you said it's work, rest, work, and how that leads to burnout. I'm intrigued to learn a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I've always been a student at heart. I think if I could redo life, I would have gotten my PhD straight out of my undergrad, because I've just always been let's think of the theory, a very strategic thinker, pattern finder. I have ADHD. It's our superpower, right? So I see things other people don't. I take very complex things and I can digest them and teach them at a very simple, digestible level. And so what I noticed over time is that what I've always been told as a high performer, I am a high performer. I don't let people down. It happens. We hit numbers. I go above and beyond all of the things, which is cool, but also kind of a disease. So, because you're constantly just trying to be the best ever, and that can be really exhausting, right? So traditionally what happens is someone is taught as a high performer, great, you're a high performer. So this is what you do. You hustle, 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 do absolutely everything you can, work maximum hours, do all of the things, people please, all these things. And then when you think you're going to die, go take a vacation.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And then unplug. But by the way, because you're a high performer, you don't even know how to unplug. Right. So you're still plugged in. Then you come back and it's not like work went away for 2 weeks. Now you have twice as much work, twice as much to prove, and you're back into hustling, regardless if you're an employee or an entrepreneur or a small business owner. It doesn't matter. So how the heck does that help anybody? And how this ties back to revenue is that if you're an entrepreneur, a founder, a creator, you got to break that cycle or you're never going to hit the potential that you want. 1. 2, if you are a founder CEO listening to this and hiring high performers, you better really listen, because if you want to retain them and have them help grow your business, you have to do this. So what I have realized is you typically with a high performer, we're carrot chasers, right? So after we get the carrot, we reward ourselves with something. It could be a vacation, a bag, a house, I don't know, make it up, right? So, but the problem is that we're so burned out by the time we actually get there, there's no joy in the receivership of whatever we have earned. So I decided when I moved to Park City, Utah a couple of years ago, I'm going to flip this thing on its head. And I am no longer going to get myself trapped in this and burn out, because I have absolutely burned out multiple times. The last one I can think of, I literally didn't get off the couch for 3 weeks, which if you know me, I have never sat on the couch for more than 7 minutes.
Okay.
So it is crazy. And I'm you know what it is there's 2 things that every high performer wants. Okay. It's autonomy and pleasure in their life. Right. Autonomy, pleasure in their life. Now, pleasure doesn't need to be super expensive cars or all these things. It could be you know what makes me really happy and fills my bucket is every morning at 6:30, I get together with my neighborhood and we go on a walk with our dogs. And that starts me in the right way. But a high performer who's in that toxic loop actually won't even let them do the walk, because they're no, I got to answer emails at 6:30 in the morning. Right. Okay. So pleasure and autonomy. So that actually is what unlocks your ability to sustain and not to burn out. Then you can put in your engine. Now you'll see I call it an engine because that's what I do. I install revenue engines. That is exactly what I do. So now I'm helping people install their own high performance engine that will drive revenue. It'll drive legacy, money, power, freedom, sustainability, optionality, velocity, like your high performing friend. If he's doing what I'm about to share with you, he should be able to find another revenue job like that because he has optionality, credibility, and impact. So those are the results we all want. And how you get there is through thought leadership, leverage, discipline, and resilience. And so that's the engine that you build around your pleasure and autonomy. money and it spreads out to then be able to access the results that you want.
I love it. I love it. All right. So you touched on something there that I wanted to ask you anyways, but you talked about like building the personal engine that allows you to accomplish all these other things. I
Hmm.
want you to frame that for our audience in the context of personal finances, money, wealth, however you want to frame it.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
your journey with money been like, and how would you advise high performers, revenue leaders, CEOs? We've got a lot of that as our
Yeah.
audience. So give them some advice.
Yeah. So first of all, like I'm your stereotypical woman when it comes to this. And it's like my dad did my taxes all through like high school and college as soon as I started making money. Then he still gave me his gas card. When I graduated college, he still did my taxes in my early 20s. Then I got married, and then my husband did my taxes. So all of this time, like up until like about around age 30, the only part of money that I had figured out is how to make it and how to make a lot of it. But that's actually super dangerous. Like, it's
Yeah.
actually dangerous to give a bunch of money to somebody who actually doesn't know how to manage it. Right. So,
That's
that
why
was
my
like right.
profession exists, Michelle.
I'm just telling you, Dan, it's so true. And I have never met anyone who's good at all of it right away from birth because,
Yeah.
our school systems are failing us. They're failing us so horribly. Like, my children are going to probably learn absolutely nothing in school that they're going to ever use in real life. Like, how about how to do your taxes, how to manage your money? Like, it just blows my mind. So I was victim to all of that, right? And then when I decided to open up my own business, I was like, ooh, cash flow? This is interesting, right? And all these other things, a P&L. Oh, what's happening, right? So I had to get to work. And, I spent years learning how to manage not only my personal money, but also my business money. And then as I started to become a CRO and a CSO, I'm looking at P&Ls, I'm meeting with board members, I'm helping with fundraising. Like, you bet I had to master that skill. And so I guess my message to everyone listening right now is like, you might be great at managing money, but not making it. Or maybe you're great at making it, not managing it. Or maybe you're great on a personal side, but not a business side. But the thing that I have to say is that you do not have a choice to figure this out. Like, if you want to be truly wealthy and rich, just like you said in the beginning, Dean, of like the whole purpose of your business is you have to pay attention to your money and you need to steward it, you need to nurture it, and you need to understand and play the game. And if you don't do that, you're going to die and be really mad you didn't.
Well, that is a phenomenal segue. I would say drop the mic, but your mic seems like it's attached there, so don't drop it.
Yeah,
And
I'm
we
not
need
going to
it for
drop the
the
mic.
rest of the episode. All right, perfect segue. We're gonna head into the lightning round, Michelle. So we're gonna let the
Awesome.
audience get to know you a little bit better. I'm just gonna have a couple questions. First thought that comes to your mind could be a one-word answer, could be a long drawn-out thought. You ready?
Okay, this is exciting. Let's see.
All right. One meal for the rest of your life. What is it?
Meal for the rest of my life. I'm going to go with tacos.
You know what? I tacos is my answer. My wife recently asked me, like, you asked that question. What's your response? And I would say tacos too. So
Tacos, but they have to
and
be authentic street tacos.
I agree.
None of this like Tex-Mex thing. Okay.
And we chatted earlier. We're both of Italian descent. So I think if I had to eat one meal, it would be on the Italian side. But if I were going to eat it consistently, I'd go with the taco route. So I'm with you on that one.
Yep. I mean,
All right.
the women in my family make the best focaccia bread I've ever had, but I
Oh,
don't think
I
I
love
can
it.
sustain my life on that.
Yeah. Sure. All right. What's one tool or piece of technology? Could be hardware, could be
Mhm.
software, anything in between, other than your phone or your computer that you can't live without.
My CRM.
All
Isn't
right.
that a good
Do you
revenue
mind
leader
sharing what
answer?
CRM you use?
Yes. So I use Go High Level, and
Okay.
that is my personal CRM, and I'm pretty sure you use that too, just based on your meeting reminders. So I love Go High Level, and I think Go High Level is the perfect solution for businesses that are like looking to be 5 million or less or have a very simple sales process. If it's complicated and it's 5 mil or more, then I love HubSpot. So those are my two preferences. And I just look at the numbers, and HubSpot is so extraordinarily expensive that it doesn't make sense to keep paying for that at a scalable level unless you're going to, exceed 5 million and you have complicated sales cycle, complicated everything.
Sure. Well said. I can't disagree with that. Do you have a favorite quote or phrase about business or success?
It's all in your control.
All right. How about a routine, a process, or a personal hack? You're a big productivity person, but you're
I
also
am.
a high performance person. Give us something that our audience can replicate that you're doing that's working well.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people say I'm not a morning person. I'm not going to get up early, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, maybe there is a very small percentage of people that don't need to get up early and start their day to be successful. But I only know like two people out of the million people I know.
Right.
So you need to get up and you need to get up early and you need to do what fills your cup for the day so that you can be successful. For me, I have a very strict gym schedule every single morning at 5:30, and I have a certain set of things I do every single morning before any child or another adult in my home wakes up. And without that, if I skip it, my entire day is screwed. And so you just have to do it and you have to show up. And, this goes back to one of my my engine, prongs per se. It's discipline. Like I'm not motivated to go to the gym every morning. Like that's the stupidest thing anybody's ever said. No one stays motivated to do that stuff. It's discipline and commitment is actually what gets you there.
Absolutely. We have a lot in common and we're at the gym around the same time. So I'm with you. And it just becomes a habit, frankly. You don't even think
Yeah.
about it.
No, you don't.
All right. What is one bucket list item you've already accomplished?
Ooh, to live in the mountains.
I love it.
So yeah, that was, I wanted to escape the big city life and I've done that. And so I love Park City, Utah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Last one. If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Just keep going. Everything you want's almost there.
I mean, I was chatting with a friend about that exact concept a couple weeks ago, and it's amazing how the difference between being successful and not being successful oftentimes is just keep doing it, right? Keep
Yep.
going. I love
Keep
it.
going. It's resilience. Once again, another one of my prongs.
All right. So, Michelle, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on. If our listeners want to connect with you, collaborate with you, work with you, I want to hear where they can access the workbook. Tell us about
Yes.
how everybody can find you.
Awesome. So if you are a seller, go onto Amazon.com and search for high performance sales habits and you can grab my workbook.
Cool.
And then number two is my podcast is called Revenue Rascals. And you can go to revenuerascals.com and you can sign up for free to access every single playbook, worksheet, training I've created inside the vault. It's a one-time sign up and you can access everything in the portal because I'm a high performer and I don't have time to chase a bunch of documents. So I thought people would appreciate it being in one spot.
That's a lot of value. We'll put that in the show notes as well. But that's
Awesome.
great stuff, Michelle. Thanks so much for coming on. Really, really enjoyed the discussion. This was a lot of fun. That's it for the episode. You can find the podcast, our newsletter, our YouTube channel, all for free, just like Michelle said on with her side at makingsenseofyourmoney.com. And as always, prioritize your version of a rich life.
Thank you, Dan.